When we look at a lot of life, it seems that the recurring theme is that certain themes recur. I'm not a Buddhist, but it sometimes looks like a lot of things act like wheels. They just cycle around and around. What has been will be, as Ecclesiastes says. It's a popular motif, actually. Every year, good old Charlie Brown attempts, without success, to kick the football. Every single show, the coyote pursues and fails to catch the roadrunner. And one of my favorite comics shows a man with a briefcase approaching a city intersection, and a bubble over his head says that he's thinking, eat, work, sleep. Eat, work, sleep. At the intersection there's a stoplight, and the bubble over its head says it's thinking green, yellow, red, green, yellow, red. I think it's popular because there's something there that resonates in the human experience. Not just modern bored Americans, but people in many times in many cultures. Repetition, especially of something that appears to be fruitless or devoid of immediate meaning, is often the source of sore complaint. The psalmist, and if you ever feel you have the need to have someone join in your anxiety, start here. The psalmist says, "My tears have been my food day and night, while people say to me continually, 'Where is your God?'" And this, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" Or Psalm 73, "Such are the wicked always at ease, they increase in riches. All in vain, I have kept my heart clean and washed my hands in innocence. For all day long I have been plagued and am punished every morning." The exemplar here is the Greek myth of Sisyphus. It's a little fuzzy just how, but it appears that he managed to pull a trick on the god of the underworld, literally cheated death. But one doesn't really get away with those kinds of things, so he gets punished dramatically. For all eternity, he gets to push an exceedingly heavy stone up a mountain, only to have it roll back down again. For him, it's SSDD, same stone, different day. Where is this going? Well, for many of us, I'm sure this is another Advent. We have to get the Christmas decorations up again. We have to bake 16 dozen cookies again. We have to brave the crowds at the mall again. We have to drag ourselves through another Christmas season again. And when it comes time to sing "Joy to the World, the Lord is Come," sometimes it's just the same old song. We know we're supposed to be joyous in this season, that we're supposed to be cheerfully generous and loving. We're supposed to be genuinely grateful for the gift of the light of the world. It's just that sometimes it all seems, well, same old, same old. But I think there can be something to repetition, something more than despair or at least aggravation. I think we can find some serious pedagogical value here. I can't be as pessimistic as the English author Lawrence Durrell, who wrote that we can learn from the past. Why? Because history is an endless repetition of the wrong way of living. No, not that kind of learning, but something more positive, some motion toward wisdom, even. Repetition. When Emily asks that we read the same story for the third time, I want to believe that on some level she's learning something new each time. But maybe it's more like her math homework. Right now it's 100 timed problems in adding and subtracting two numbers. The idea, I think, is to get her to where she doesn't even think about counting. She just knows that 8 plus 7 equals 15. Bingo. She can think about other things. Babe Zacharias, fabulous athlete of the last century, was asked how to play golf well. It's simple, she said. First, you hit 1,000 golf balls. You hit them until your hands bleed and you can't hit anymore. The next day, you start all over again. And the next day, and the next. And maybe a year later, you might be ready to go 18 holes. After that, you play every day until the time finally arrives when you know what you're doing when you hit the ball. Maybe you've heard about the 10,000 hours rule. Basically, it says that to get proficient, really proficient at something, we have to practice it 10,000 hours. Want to play golf well? Hit 10,000 hours worth of golf balls. Tennis, 10,000 hours of backhands. Soccer, highlight, squash. Football, hockey, same thing. Practice, practice, practice. Here's the deal. This isn't just true for athletes. It's also true for all sorts of other skills. Take music. What do very, very accomplished artists do? They practice all the time. In fact, a recent study shows that musicians at the top of their professions practice significantly more than those trying to get to the top. Take an iconic group like the Beatles. When they broke onto the American scene, they already had 10,000 hours performing with each other. They knew how to make music together. 10,000 hours is about 5 years of work, and when we think about it, how often did we start doing something and not feel we'd really hit our stride until, say, 5 years of doing just that? Now, consider the implicit morality of Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character Phil is apparently doomed to repeat February 2nd time after time after time after time. It's funny and sad to watch as he tries everything he can to bring some enjoyment, some meaning into his recurrent life. He's amusingly unsuccessful until he learns a few things about self-centeredness and a few more things about how a world built on relationship works. Now, it's not Groundhog Day, it's Advent. And we can still feel that it's just the same as always. True, we get surprises, some welcome, like finding genuine love. Some not, 3 more months of winter. But hopefully we can also begin to learn through the repetitions how to find the truth, how to let go a little and enjoy Christmas not as we make it, but as God's gift to the world. We need to move the focus from us and all the stuff we have to do around Christmas and put it back on the manger and consider, internalize, if you will, what God has done and is still doing for us. We're not looking so much to get it right. Why? Because in matters of the Spirit, it's not a question of right. It's a question of relationship. Still, repetition, discovering through trial and error the things that last, the things that matter, this process is often long and difficult. That's the point of a parable Jesus told of a female plaintiff in a first century lawsuit. Luke chapter 18. Jesus said, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for the people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, "Grant me justice against my opponent." For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, "Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she might not wear me out by continually coming." The Lord said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them." The popular holiday movie is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It will be on at least a dozen times in the next 2 weeks somewhere. Chevy Chase is a father who is determined to fulfill his dreams of a good old-fashioned family Christmas. His wife, played by Beverly D'Angelo, wisely suggests he not go overboard trying to engineer a perfect occasion. "You set standards no family can live up to," she says. "When did I ever do that?" he says. She starts in. Parties, weddings, anniversaries, funerals, holidays, vacations, graduations. In spite of his efforts, of course, almost everything that could go wrong with his good old-fashioned family Christmas does. The tree is too big, his least favorite cousin drops in with his family, the lights don't light, the bonus doesn't come, the turkey's grossly overcooked, the dog trashes the house chasing the squirrel that was living in the tree, everyone squabbles, and so on. Lots more to make it a fun movie. It has an edge, of course, because these things do happen. And they happen to us. Just hopefully not all at the same time. But maybe he learns by the end of the movie that it isn't the trappings of Christmas that make it special, because the trappings are what get repeated time after time that we think make meaning but actually don't. It's rather the joy of people together. If they had all piled in the car to go to a Christmas Eve service, that really would have done it. But this is Hollywood after all. Trying too hard can often strike a responsive chord. We can relate to getting so uptight over a party or some other event that we have a miserable time ourselves. At other times, it seems like it would be a better idea to junk it all and try again. But is this possible? Can we not just repeat the occasion? Not just go through the motions, but somehow really begin again with Christmas? Or is it, as Scrooge says, too late for us? Leave it to some younger person. Maybe it's not entirely up to us. Here's a way. Repetition. Repetition teaches not so much the conscious mind, but the soul. A pianist will practice a Chopin etude time after time, day after week after month. And if she's diligent, the heart of that music will be revealed. And she'll learn not just what it says, the notes on the page, but what it means. This isn't doing pages of math or hitting 1,000 golf balls, doing something so often that we barely need to think about it at all. No, we're talking about the repetitive persistence that endures trials and yields insight, edging toward wisdom. It's the same with gifts of faith. The gifts themselves come free. They're gifts, but they're wrapped. They're wrapped up in layers of experience that must be slowly peeled away, one by one, over time. The gift to be fully realized can take a lot of work. I read of a difficult pastoral situation in the case of a young man suffering what's sometimes called a nervous breakdown. The pastor would come, but she'd invariably find the man listless and depressed. "It's a gray world," he says. "I see no purpose in it at all. It's dull, meaningless, and evil. Its pleasures soon pass, but its pains endure. And I ask myself, is it worth living at all?" And he'd go on and on. The pastor was faithful in her visits, but for months the litany was the same: dull, dull world. In the springtime, the flowers made no difference. In the summer, the heat could not dispel the young man's gloom. But then, almost out of nowhere, the young man seemed different. Was it his medication? No, he wasn't on chemical support. What was it? Questions brought out that the pastor wasn't the only visitor. The young man's landlady had a daughter. And one day, to hear him tell it later, he woke up. And he saw in her face the face of love. And so when the pastor came, expecting another depressing experience, she was greeted with, "Isn't this a great day? Just look at it. Birds singing, sun shining. Isn't it great to be alive?" We have to keep looking. Sooner or later, we will see something. That's what faith is all about. Not that we can see it on demand. Gifts don't work that way. But we will see it. And when we see it, we'll know it. And it will mean something. Robert Frost wrote, "The heart can think of no devotion greater than being shore to ocean, holding the curve of one position, counting an endless repetition." That's the way Advent is supposed to work on us. In the sameness of life, especially this gray time of year in Pittsburgh. The time when the days are short, we begin again. The good news, the promise of the gospel, is that we can. We can begin again to experience an increase in joy, love, and peace in our lives, not just a decrease of funds in our bank account. We can, amidst this season of giving, receive a renewed spirit as we allow God's love made flesh to rejuvenate our souls. We can, in all the comings and goings of this economically important retail season, to find the peace and the joy at the center of it all, if we are willing to begin again. My prayer is that the living Christ may enter our hearts this Advent season as if for the first time, that we might fall in love